my last video tonight. Then I'm going to bed. But I need to do one more from Hoosiers. Look, water. So, let me play just a little bit of song so you can figure out who we're going to do. Who was a native to Indiana that would go along with this song? No, it's not Zach Brown.
You know, well, I'm a chicken fried and cold beer on a Friday night, a pair of jeans that fit just right, and a radio. Well, I was raised up beneath the shade of a Georgia pine, and that's home, you know, sweet tea, pecan pie, and homemade wine, where the peaches grow. And my house is not much to talk about, but it's filled with love that's grown in southern ground, and a little bit of chicken fried. Cold beer on a Friday night, a pair of jeans that fit just right, and the radio.
So, not Zach Brown. Pardon me. You don't really my chin right now because it's healing. Who is it? Oh, yeah. Yeah. When I first heard he was born in Indiana, I didn't believe it. I was a Kentucky Fried Chicken fan.
See how 50% more power now comes in a smaller package.
Nope.
Sunday dinner. There's just something about Sunday dinner that makes it the best meal of the week. Maybe it's the steaming bowls of mashed potatoes and thick brown gravy. Maybe it's the tasty tender chicken fried up golden brown. Whatever it is, Sunday dinner is it. The best meal of the week. Only one little problem. Ever try taking it places? Like church socials, parties, or ball games? Announcing the portable Sunday dinner by Colonel Sanders. He cooks up Kentucky Fried Chicken in his kitchen, then packs it up in his handy bucket. All you do is pick it up. Imagine, the best meal of the week travels everywhere, every day of the week. Okay, Colonel, hit the road.
There you go.
When I first came down to this country,
What do you think about that? Pretty good, isn't it? So, Colonel Sanders was born in Henryville, Indiana, which is not even that far from here. I've been to Henryville many times, and who would think that that was the birthplace of Colonel Harlan Sanders? So what I'm going to do with Mr. Colonel Harlan Sanders is I'm going to do something here. There we go. I'm going to read you what came out of the book, or paraphrase or whatever, and then I want to tell you 7 things you probably didn't know about him, and then we're done. And then I'm going to bed. So here we go. Colonel Harlan Sanders. Native of Henryville, Indiana, born in 1890. So the man who made Kentucky Fried Chicken famous was of course, I'm sorry, Kentucky. Of course he was a Hoosier. He was a bawdy, it says, B-A-W-D-Y, which means fiery, a bawdy, hot-tempered, brawling man prone to showmanship. He liked to kind of strut his stuff. He bounced from one occupation to another throughout his life. Before becoming a household name, he tried his hand as a farm hand, a streetcar fare collector, soldier, and railroad worker. He practiced law. He sold life insurance. He sold tires. And the one that amazed me the most, he was a midwife. For some of you youngins that don't know what a midwife is, usually it was a woman. And she would come deliver your baby. She wasn't a doctor, but she knew what she's doing. She'd come deliver your baby for a pittance of what it would cost you in the hospital with a real doctor. So he said, well, there wasn't anybody else around to do it, so I thought I'd do it. I lost my place there. He formed unsuccessful businesses in commercial lighting, a ferry boat company that went from the Kentucky side to the Indiana side, a furniture store, pilot training school, and bricklaying school. Those didn't work for him. His drive to fame and fortune led him, believe it or not, to Corbin, Kentucky, which is not a big town, where he started with a gas station, and then it grew to include a restaurant, and then a motel, and it was there in the 1940s along U.S. Highway 25. Once you get off I-65, you just turn left and stand down the road a little bit. And he said he would lure cars on their way to Florida with his 65-cent fried chicken dinner. He sold his business, his Corbin business, for $75,000. And he hit the road with pressure cookers and secret ingredients. And by 1964, he had created over 600 franchises for his new chicken, Kentucky Fried Chicken. He sold the business for $2 million, and he continued as spokesperson for the company until he died. And that's what I have in this book. Now I want to, of course, I looked him up thinking I wanted to make this short, and it's not going to be too long, but I want to tell you about, well, the rate on there one I thought was boring, so 7 things that maybe you didn't know about Colonel Harlan Sanders. One thing, when he opened his first restaurant inside his gas station. He started to serve meals to truck drivers at an old family dining room. An old family dining room table wheeled into the front of his Corbin, Kentucky service station in 1930. And that was during the Depression. Fried chicken was not on his menu because it took too long to prepare. His country ham, yum yum, and steak dinners proved so popular that he soon opened Sanders Cafe across the street and began to serve fried chicken in an iron skillet. Food critic Duncan Hines included the restaurant in his 1935 Road Food Guide, and it was there in 1939 that the Colonel used pressure cookers to perfect his quick frying chicken coated with his secret recipe of 11 herbs and spices. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think I am, Duncan Hines was a native to Bowling Green, Kentucky. So I think these were 2 Kentuckians. Most interesting thing I found out about him was he wounded a business rival in a deadly shootout. It said he was a hothead and never backed down from a fight, which served him well in the rough and tumble area called Hell's Half Acre, and that was around the neighborhood around his Shell gas station. And it said when the future fast food giant painted advertising signs on barns for miles around, the aggressive marketing tactic rankled Matt Stewart, who operated a nearby Standard Oil gas company. So anyway, let me put in my own words. So Shell Oil started using barns all around for advertising signs, and that's the kind of station that Sanders had. And rival across the road who operated Standard Oil gas station was Matt Stewart, and it just really made him mad. And Sanders had been told that Stewart was out and for the second time was painting over one of the Shell gas station signs. It said Sanders rushed to the scene with 2 Shell executives with him. The guy that owned the Standard Oil, the Stewart, it said exchanged his paintbrush for a gun and fatally shot the Shell district manager. So Sanders didn't shoot and kill anybody, but the upset rival killed the Shell manager and wounded. So Robert Gibson was his name. Sanders returned fire and wounded Stewart, the opposing rival, in the shoulder. Stewart was sentenced to 18 years in prison for murder, but the charges against Sanders were dropped after his arrest. And that's the end of that. Number 3, he served in the military, but he was an honorary colonel. He wasn't a real colonel. People think he was, unless he's a Colonel Popcorn. That's a bad joke. Sanders, who falsified his birth date in order to enlist in the U.S. Army in 1906, served in Cuba for a few months before his honorable discharge in 1935. And Kentucky Governor Ruby Laffoon issued a ceremonial decree that commissioned Sanders as an honorary colonel. And then once he got a second honorary colonel, he decided, well, I should take this and use it. And that's when he came up with the look. He tried to look the part with his facial hair, beard, and at first it said he donned a black frock coat and a little tie. And then soon after they switched to a white suit, like you see, which helped him hide the flour stains from frying the chicken. And he bleached his mustache and his goatee to go with his white hair. The second most fascinating one that I didn't know. Number 4, the colonel delivered babies and practiced law before hitting it big into fast food. It said he kind of aspired to be the next Clarence Darrow. He studied law by correspondence, and he practiced in justice of the peace courts in Arkansas until there was a courtroom brawl with a client, and that detailed his legal career. And then he operated the steamboat and sold insurance, blah, blah, blah. During his time in Corbin, he delivered babies. He said, well, there's nobody else to do it. So their husbands couldn't afford a doctor when their wives were pregnant, so he did it for them. His first Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise was actually in Utah. And there's a big story behind it that we won't go over. You can read it. And then it says Sanders was 65 years old and reliant on a $105 a month Social Security check when he incorporated Kentucky Fried Chicken. And he began driving his 1946 Ford around the country, signing up new franchises. Two more things. I remember there's one thing going on because, I lived about 30 miles from Louisville, Kentucky, and that's where I spent when we go to the big city. And Sanders sold Kentucky Fried Chicken in 1964 to a food conglomerate, Heublin, Heublein. They purchased the company in 1971. And the cantankerous colonel began to deride the chain's gravy. He called the gravy that he was promoting slop, and he called the chains, the owners, as a quote, a bunch of booze hounds. And the public still liked the company, but Sanders said disliked the Kentucky Fried Chicken's food so much that he developed plans to franchise something. It was just outside of Louisville called, well, it's in Shelbyville, Kentucky, the Colonel Ladies Dinner House. He opened it up with his wife in Shelbyville, Kentucky in 1968 and became a competitor with the company he was still representing. And when Hubland threatened to block the plan, this company that bought Kentucky Fried Chicken, Sanders sued for $122 million. The two sides settled out of court with Sanders receiving $1 million and a chance to give the Hubland executives cooking lessons. He got to do that in return for his promise to stop criticizing Kentucky Fried Chicken's food. So they made a nice little agreement there, and it seemed to work out. And they renamed his new place. They renamed it Claudia Sanders Dinner House. It was allowed to stay open, and it's still in operation today. And I always want to go there and eat, and I never got there. So maybe that should go on my bucket list, because I think it's still open today. And the last thing before we quit, Sanders swore like a sailor. He may have appeared to be the epitome of a Southern gentleman, but his language was, it says, notoriously salty, particularly when he wasn't pleased with the quality of the food at Kentucky Fried Chicken. So he's famous among the KFC people for swearing. And one time he said, quote, "I used to cuss the prettiest you ever heard," he admitted. "I did my cussing before women or anybody else. But somehow nobody ever took any offense." And then the last one, which I'm not going to read because I understand it. Legend has he put a hex on a baseball team from Japan that after their victory went and grabbed his statue and threw it into a river in Japan. And anyway, then the team started losing, and they called it the curse of the Colonel. But anyway, because they threw his statue in the water. Wow. I could have done a lot more on him, but we're going to quit right here. I'm going to go back to Chicken Fried somewhere and play that, and we'll get out of here.
Thousands of women with metastatic breast cancer are living in...
Hey, Pete. You ready for the intro? 1, 2, 3, 4.
We'll just do the intro and then we'll stop. We won't do any more of the songs because you've already heard some of it. I don't think that there's much in Henryville marked for Colonel Sanders except for maybe a sign. I mean, I think they'd use that a little bit for some tourist stuff, but Henryville's not very big. Hey, see you out there.